Failing is not always a reason to quit. Sometimes it's an opportunity to pivot. And this might be our most personal episode yet. Give it a listen.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Edgy Entrepreneur Podcast, where we believe that if you're not focusing on your mindset, you're leaving 80% of your business and life potential, by God, on the table. We, as always, are your hosts. I am Daniel Tribby, your healthcare entrepreneur coach, healthcare provider, author, all the things. You've heard me say this, and I have the pleasure of doing this with Oriana. Introduce yourself.
I am Coach Oriana, life and personal performance coach, author, speaker, and general badass.
That a kid.
We're at the end of the season.
This is the last episode in the season, so forgive us if we're a little silly. It's not because we are quote unquote excited about it being the end, but we are excited about knocking out these episodes over the course of this year and really growing as people, growing as podcasters, and then also growing with you guys as well. So speaking of growth, we got a pretty cool topic today, which is pivoting. Right? How do you know when you need to pivot? How do you know when the direction you thought you were going to go has changed and maybe you need to find something that is in the same direction but maybe just parallel to it, or when you just need to abandon ship, let that thing sink and jump into something different? So we're going to talk...
Pull the ripcord.
Yeah, that's it. So we're going to talk a little bit because I think people get fixated, right, on a certain point, a certain direction. I want this thing, that thing, and they develop this like tunnel vision, right? And they're going to go straight for it, but then they don't see the other little pieces that could add to their direction, or that they maybe need to sidestep into and run parallel with that, right? Or they just get so fixated on, I want this one thing, and it's never going to come to fruition for various reasons, and they just don't pull the plug and move in a different direction. So we're going to talk about pivoting and how you can be aware of your signs, of your symptoms, right? The healthcare guy, signs and symptoms. So we want to help you be aware of those things, make sure that you're not in a scarcity mindset and that you are able to pivot in a healthy way.
Yeah. I mean, these are really uncertain times. A lot of people are in situations and having experiences that we've never had before, right? And so not only have you never had them, but lots of people have never had them, never had to deal with some of the things that are popping up right now and the level of uncertainty that's in our current social structure and situation. And so sometimes to look at the people around you and go, what would you do? They don't know. They're at a loss as well, right? And so you have to be able to look within yourself and really feel through what's your heart and your gut telling you, what's your intuition saying, where do you fall back on your values, beliefs, and convictions about where you need to be at right now, and what you need to stop doing or start doing, or what you need to tweak, right? A lot of times we get into these painful situations, and it could be in any aspect of your personal ecosystem, right? Could be in a relationship, it could be in your business, or it could be, let's say, in your health, for example, or in your finances, right? Those are like the top four, like, big parts of a person's personal ecosystem where when they're suffering, like there is suffering, right? Like they can feel it. It's big. And so a lot of times the initial instinct is like to eliminate the suffering or to reduce the suffering that I'm in is like, that's it. I'm out. I'm done. Right? We're getting divorced, or we're breaking up, or I'm out of my business, or whatever it is. It's some extreme action, right? Mm-hmm. That's what some people do. They go to the extreme, like that's it. I'm done. We're over. I'm not putting any effort into this anymore. Other people go to the quite opposite extreme, which is they freeze up, right? Which is right. These are nervous system reactions, mm-hmm. right? Like sure. One of them is fight or flight. Right? So they're running away, they're abandoning, they're just like, I'm out of here. The second person that freezes up, they actually get further entrenched in the situation. You know, there's no way out of this. I can't find a way out of this, right? They're telling themselves some pretty significant stories that are actually keeping them trapped in the pain. Mm-hmm. And what a lot of people forget is that there is a medium, right? There is something in the middle, and it's called a pivot.
Yep.
Called a pivot. You can pivot in any aspect of your life and relationships, you know, even in most cases, a pivot can not only alleviate some of the pain points, but a pivot is, but the pain points, the pain points are actually showcasing that something has to change, right? It's not necessarily showcasing that something has to end, even though that could be the case, and you need to be able to have the discernment to figure that out.
Right.
But it's, in most cases, it's like either this situation changes or it has to end. And that gives you the opportunity to reinvent something new, right? In your business, in your health, in your finances, in your relationships, in whatever aspect of your ecosystem is currently you're feeling discomfort and or pain.
Right. And I would venture to say there's a third thing that happens, and that's stubbornness, right? Either people fight or flight, don't know what to do, they freeze, and then there's the middle ground where they're like, I'm just going to be stubborn and keep going this direction regardless of anything else, right?
That's such a great point.
They get tunnel vision. And for those of you who really need to understand what a pivot point is, what happened to BlackBerry? Okay, so BlackBerry was fixated on the idea that everybody wanted one inbox, one thing, one area. Like email is not going to be that big. All these other social apps aren't going to be that big. So when all these smartphones started coming out, BlackBerry stood their ground. And now where are they? They're nowhere, right? That company is done. So this is your call to pay attention to what's going on around you in your market, right? A lot of you just get fixated on your idea or your direction, and you get this tunnel vision that doesn't allow you to pay attention to your market. You have to take a look and see what it is that people are wanting, what it is they're desiring, and go meet them at that point. So when you fail to pivot and go meet your market at that point, you will not make it. Right?
Yeah.
So
that's the thing. I mean, if you, instead of getting into fear and into pain, you can actually really consider that discomfort and those pain points are showing you an opportunity, right? And coming at the crossroads of a pivot is actually very much a blessing when you have the right mindset, because it means that you at least have the awareness to be able to recognize, like, oh man, I'm coming up to a crossroads. Right? Just like if you were literally driving or walking up to the crossroads and a decision has to be made about how to continue, right? All that you know is that you can't go backwards and you can't stay where you're at. Like you have to pick one and you have to move in that direction, right? And luckily you're surrounded with people around you who can support you in whatever it is that you choose to do or give you guidance and meaningful feedback and suggestions about that, right? Because, and I say meaningful because some people will encourage you to just stay put and keep fighting the current, you know? And you think about it, like I think about it like an actual rip current in an ocean, right? If you try to fight against a rip current and swim against it, you're going to drown.
Right. Or you're going to be swept further out.
You're going to get swept further out, and then you're probably going to drown, right? What you need to do is stay calm, stay collected so that you can have your wits about you and swim parallel. That's the realist life example of a moment of truth where you need to choose to pivot, right? Instead of getting into fear and getting entrenched in like, no, it must happen this way, the way that I planned, the way that I envisioned, it's got to happen this particular way or not at all, right?
For me, what's really fun about a pivot point is that when you get to that place and you take a step parallel to where you were, you have a new vantage point, right? Which new vantage points give you new information.
So true.
And new information is what you need to be able to then take the next step. Now, maybe the step you took wasn't the correct one. Guess what? It's okay. It's not good or it's bad. It's information that you didn't have before. So now you can take a different step, a different direction. Or if it is good, then you keep following that train until you get to another point where you need a new vantage point. But every step you take is a new vantage point for your life, your relationships, or your business. And so when you freeze, or you get into that fight or flight situation, or you're so stubborn that you don't want to change, you have no new information, right? And you cannot manage what you don't measure. So if you don't take steps to have new information come in so you can now manage a new situation, your company, your relationship, your life goes nowhere, right? Except right there where you are.
Right. I'm so glad that you talked about vantage points because it's so critical. I make this analogy with my clients when I talk to them. I'm like, you pick up any object right now, just pick up any random object in your hand, and from every single angle that you look at that object, you will describe it differently than somebody else looking at the exact same thing from a different angle. You know? And so when you understand that, then you can understand that not every situation that you're in has only one perspective or one vantage point. You can actually acknowledge to yourself, I don't actually see any other vantage points to this scenario right now, but there's got to be another one.
Right.
Like just in acknowledging that there has to be another vantage point that likely you don't see right now, but that if you would, you know, take some time and opportunity to really ground yourself in a committed kind of like talk with yourself to look for another vantage point, you will find it.
Yeah,
you'll
absolutely.
find it, you know?
I put a post up, or I think just last week or the week before, that was about perspectives. And I think you and I did this, and because we were talking about perspectives and things that we were doing with Edgy Entrepreneurs, right? Because we made a recent pivot inside of Edgy Entrepreneurs. So we're going to talk a little bit about that before the end of this episode, so stick around. But I did a post where I held up a sheet of paper, and the paper that was facing the camera was one color, while the other side of it was a different color. And I asked, what color is this? And you might say blue if it's facing you, but on my side it's orange. I'm like, no, what color is it? You're like, blue. Like, no, it's orange. No, it's blue. No, it's not. It's orange.
Right.
Because
and now we're having a fight about it.
Right, because my perspective is different than yours. And until you take the time to understand perspective, right? Active listening, empathic listening to people who have possibly been where you want to go, right? We talk about this all the time. If you don't have a community, you don't have people that can help you when you get to these points, you only have one perspective, okay? And as coaches, we like to help people see other perspectives, other areas, other directions that they could step that keep them moving positively in a direction rather than negatively retracting.
Sure.
Right, which is what a lot of people do. So
yes, because the fear.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And you're always going to fear what you don't know, right? But how are you ever going to know until you actually take some action? So if it's the right thing or not. So as far as our pivot, right, and our new perspective, let's talk a little bit about that so people can understand where we were, what we saw, and why we decided to take a pivot, because real life examples matter, right? We're not just two people sitting on the other side of microphones talking to you guys about just shit that we've never experienced.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about our experience and our pivot so you guys can understand how this works so well.
Yeah, I've actually had to make multiple pivots in my coaching business. And I just recently made another one, right? Because this is the great thing is that the more you're actively in your business, and when you have a perspective of a pivot as an opportunity to learn and grow and to step into greater abundance for yourself and whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, then you really recognize that these potential pivot points are points in time where you can actually get closer to your life purpose and to your real mission, right? And so I've had multiple experiences where I've had to pivot on my my messaging and or my target market, right? And so some of the pivots that we just made within Edgy Entrepreneur, as if you've been following along, you know that Edgy Entrepreneur started as a podcast exclusively, and then Edgy Entrepreneur became a coaching and consulting company. And now Edgy Entrepreneur has pivoted again and is now not just a podcast, but now it's a mindset and a lifestyle brand. Right. And so we've actually, under the lifestyle brand umbrella, we've made it possible for ourselves to be able to offer so much more to the community that we serve, right? Not just coaching and consulting, right? Now we're actually, our monthly live events are now a strategic part of our lifestyle brand, right? We're going to be having merchandise soon. We're still offering executive coaching services. We've refined our target audience and market a little bit more. And so all of that, I can tell you that when we got to the point of realizing that a pivot was necessary, I don't know that either one of us were like, yay, we get to pivot. I think we
work.
Yeah, we had a series, and we had a series of realizations that led us there that were kind of like, oh, that sucks. Oh, that sucks too. Oh, okay, that sucks. Oh shit, we have to pivot, right? And so when you have that series of experiences, it can feel bad. Right? It can feel bad. And I think at some point in time, we realize okay, what we want isn't what we're getting. so we have to do something about it.
Right.
But we both could have doubled down and been like, no, we're just going to keep doing it this way or else, but we didn't do that. We said, you know what, in order to get the outcomes that we want, we have to find a new and different way to do this that also not only benefits and is aligned with us, but has a greater impact on our community. What can we do, right? And so when we kind of went back to the proverbial drawing board, we came back with something even bigger, even better, and that actually feels, for me, it feels a lot better. I hope it does for you too.
It's all right. No, yeah, it does. It absolutely does. And if you're wanting to see more about Edgy Entrepreneurs, we started writing as well. So we're putting blogs out.
Yes.
We have our Facebook community that you can be a part of, and we're going to start doing merchandise. And we have a new little spin on live events. But before I tell you about it, I want to also let you know to go to www.edgyentrepreneurs.com. That's entrepreneurs plural with an S. And see the amazing work that Oriana did on the website, because she put all that together. And it looks really cool, and there's a whole different feel to Edgy Entrepreneurs, and we really want to share that with you guys. So take some time, go check out the website and engage with some of those blogs. Share them, comment on them. We want to know feedback from you guys as to how much you love this or hate it, right? So back to these live events inside of Edgy Entrepreneurs, right? So we were doing live events, right? You started doing a live event.
We have over a year in live events, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Despite all odds, and even when people were like, nobody's meeting right now, I was like, fuck this, we're meeting.
Right. But we had this live event, and we had people that would show up. We've had as many as 35, 40 people in the room and talking about personal growth and business growth and all these different mastery tools. And it got to a point where we felt like we weren't really putting our target audience in front of us, the people that we really wanted to serve. And so we said, maybe we need to stop doing this. It was starting to become a bit of a pain point for us, right?
Yeah.
It was kind of like the week comes and we're like, I'm not excited about this.
For those of you that do events, then you know how events are a very heavy lift.
When we decided we weren't going to do it anymore, we had some people come to us and say, but hey, you're the only group that does this in the immediate area. We're in Orlando, we're in Central Florida, and nobody else is doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah. They were like, we love your events. This please don't go away.
Right. And so, and like I said earlier, listen to your market. What are they telling you? Okay. And so we say, okay, I understand nobody else is doing it, but we're also not attracting the ideal kind of person that we want to work with, right? Or that we would generate revenue from providing our services from. Right. And so we said, okay, well, how can we flip this on its head and make it something that serves the community? Because that's always got to be number one. If you're making pivots to benefit yourself first, you're going to lose every time. The pivot you have to make has to benefit your client or whoever's buying your product or your service. So who is our ideal client? So we had to get really specific on that again. Okay, who's our niche? Who do we really, really want to serve? How do they feel? Where do they hang out? What do they struggle with? What do they love? What do they hate? How do we appeal to all five of their senses, right? And then once we did that, we have now decided to structure brand new live events starting in January of 2022 that are going to be a total different feel in a total different area and targeted specifically to the people we know need to hear our information that we can help the most, right?
Yeah, super excited about our upcoming events. And it's so interesting because most people really do struggle with recognizing the finality of relationships.
Yep.
That's been part of my history as well, staying in a relationship for too long because I failed to realize when it had run its course, right? And again, I've said many times, everything is a relationship, right? So, I'll acknowledge myself even more than Coach Tribby. I was in a place where I was like, I am ready for my relationship with these events to end. Right? Like, I'm done. I'm pulling the ripcord and jumping out of this ship. But the more I kind of sat there, and I'll say when I thought that, okay, I think this is time for us to move on, I initially felt relief. And then once I started kind of putting that out there a little bit with our audience, and getting that feedback, that made me kind of take pause a little bit and go, okay, hold on, Oriana, right? Like, don't be so quick to pull the ripcord, right? Like, you don't have to make this decision out of fight or flight, right? Like, let me actually look at this, you know? And then what I realized that what was really in me was not that this relationship needed to end. That's how it felt. That's what I interpreted initially. And that's what happens with most people. You know, I have people that I work with in relationships, and then like, that's it. I'm ready for my marriage to end, my relationship to end. I'm breaking up with this person. I'm selling my business. I'm out. Pause. Slow down. Your nervous system's activated. You don't have to make a decision from that place. You're in fight or flight, right? When you're in fight or flight, you can't put an expectation on yourself of wanting to do anything else besides fight it or flee.
Right.
Right. So chill out, right? Calm your nervous system and start to look for a new vantage point, like we just talked about a few moments ago. Once I got out of that place and I started to look at this at a new vantage point and started to hear people's feedback, what I realized was I don't really want these events to end. I actually love having live events every month. I love engaging with my community in person. And I really feel that live events are a strategic value-added advantage that Edgy Entrepreneur can bring to the Orlando community. What needs to happen is either the way it's been currently happening has to end and something new needs to start, or the whole thing will end. Right? So really what I'm saying is I'm not willing to continue in the same circumstances and scenario that we've created thus far. Right? So that's different. You see, that's a 2 millimeter distinction. That's different than saying this relationship needs to end right now. Really, what I came down to it was like, either my relationship with this event needs to pivot or it will end eventually not because I don't love my community, but because I'm going to burn myself out.
Yep.
Right? And I'm not going to be able to be in service to people in this way using this vehicle. Right? So that's part of why the pivot point is so beautiful, because you can find a way to pivot that actually still allows you to be in service, make an impact, and also fulfills you. Right? When we first started doing these events, they were very fulfilling to me, you know, but after a little over a year, it was like, okay, why does this still feel so heavy?
I agree with you. And I think this little phrase comes to my mind, this whole burn the boats idea. I know a lot of you have heard this before as a business owner, burn the boats, which means if you're going to decide to do it, go all in and don't look back, burn all the boats. So there's no way to get back to where you were and just go forward. I actually despise that phrase. And the main reason is I think you need to be selective as to which boats you actually burn. So that phrase came from old, like colonial, this is like 1700 types of travel, right, where they're on these boats and they end up on an island somewhere and they have to make this area work, right? There's no way that they're going to be successful without going all in on this newfound land, right? So they burned the boats. So there was no way to leave.
Right.
So that's what that's about. So you're stranding
Which is
yourself.
Aggressive as
very,
hell.
Very aggressive, right? Now, do I believe you should burn the boats that tethered you to an old life or to an old way of thinking? I absolutely do, right? People who step into business ownership who say, oh, well, you know, I try this out for a little while. If it doesn't work, I can always go back to. Okay, if you're doing that, that means you're tethering yourself to your old life still as a fallback plan. So it doesn't mean you're going to fully commit to the new thing because you feel like you have the ability to just go back to what you were doing. I think you need to burn the hell out of that boat.
Yeah, I think that people do that in every aspect of life, health, marriage, everything. They have one foot in, one foot out. You're right. Destined for failure.
Yep. But if you landed on one side of the island and that side of the island was good for a little while, but then you had a little bit of an issue, wouldn't it be nice to have a boat that could get you to the other side of the island so you could see a different perspective and see if you can make it work that way? And that's exactly what we did. So instead of burning all the boats and just saying F it and walking away, right, we said, okay, well, maybe we just need to take this boat to the other side and take a look in this direction. We found something different and what we believe is going to be really amazing, right? And so this is what we mean when we say pivot. Find the positivity and the direction you want to go for the community you want to create something amazing for. Make that pivot. Get out of your own way and go make a pivot that helps the person you want to help. Put them first, and you will succeed every time.
I'll say that there's two aspects of making a successful pivot, because the pivot starts with your mindset first, right? Like before we could change and redefine, or let's say reinvent, not just our monthly events, but our organization as a whole, right? And how Coach Tribby and I show up in our business, we had to start thinking about this in a different way, right? So this is mindset first, where your pivot is going to happen. And then the reality of the outcomes of that mindset shift are going to then show up once you start making decisions and doing the work, right? So let's talk about the mindset that a pivot requires. So there's two aspects of the mindset. One of them is, for most people, when you find yourself in the situation that could warrant a pivot, like I said earlier, it's uncomfortable and there's certain pain points that have started to arise. You're in the mess. So the first thing that needs to happen is taking personal responsibility and ownership over the mess, right? A lot of people are in those situations and they're still externalizing how they got there, right? Like, oh, my business isn't growing because of the economy, because of what's going on out there, because of this person, because of this situation, because of my health, because of this, that, right? Like they just keep saying for them that the reason is external to themselves. The reason that you've gotten into a pain point and discomfort in your business is because it's time for you to change yourself. It's time for you to grow, evolve, and you're facing a tipping point, which is either going to lead you to pivot or perish, right? The title of this episode. So the first mindset shift is shift from looking at the external as the reasons for why you're at where you're at, and shift that to looking within yourself as the reasons why you're at where you're at. Now, that's not necessarily going to feel good, right? Personal responsibility is this funny thing like that, right? At first, when you first try to step into it, it kind of feels like stepping in his shit, like, oh crap, I have to own this, that I created this. Yes, you do. And also, here's why that's beautiful, because if I created that, I can create something else. Right? And that's an empowered place to be, versus if all that stuff out there, the economy, the environment, whatever it is, those people are the reason that I'm here. I have no control over that. And so now I'm disempowered. So I can't change anything. I can't create a better circumstance until they change, right? Until the economy changes. That's nonsense. There's many people that have been thriving in this economy. The second mindset shift that you have to make is that you have to start asking different questions. And the question has to shift from should I pivot, should I do this different, to how will I? And if you don't make that shift, if you don't start asking that different question, you're not going to be able to move out of that. So you've got to make both of those mindset shifts, as I mentioned, right? Look internally and start asking, how will I do this? And you'll find the answer.
I absolutely agree with you 1,000%. I mean, everybody wants to change everything around them instead of themselves, right? We've said this 100,000 times. I say it to every client. Stop trying to change what's around you and change what's inside of you. When you do that, you'll attract the things externally that you truly desire.
Well, everything will start to respond differently to you when you show up differently.
Exactly. And then when you get into most people won't take the action because it's unknown, right? Or they don't know what to do, or they think, okay, I need to explore this new marketing, but I don't know anything about it. So they stop. Go find out about it. Usually when you're making this pivot, there's something that you don't know yet, and you're going to have to go learn it, right? We had a lot of stuff to learn. We want to do merchandise for this lifestyle brand. We had to go learn. I'd never sold merchandise before, right? I don't think you have either. But we're like, you know what? We want this to be a lifestyle thing. We want this to be like a mantra for people, right? To get behind. And so we need to go learn about how to exude that into the merchandise, right? I've never done merchandise. You've never done merchandise. So this is something we had to learn. But you can't be afraid of that. You can be like, well, I don't know how to do it, so I'm not going to, right? If it's a thing that you want to be a part of your business or your venture or your journey, go learn about it.
And this is part of committing to your vision, man. Like,
right.
How can you cast a vision and then fear or even refuse to commit to it because you don't want to take the time to learn something. Like, we don't have to learn just one thing based on this pivot. Like, we went from trying to build a coaching and consulting company, which both of us have done before, to building a lifestyle brand, which neither one of us has done before, right? So we don't have to learn merch. We have to learn how to sell sponsorship packages. We have to learn how to create a profitable blog, right? In the past couple of months, we've been learning how to create a profitable and engaging Facebook group. Like, we've had to learn so much, and that is part of the journey, and that is what makes it so great.
Right, and also frustrating, right?
And also frustrating, yeah.
Because you got to learn all the new stuff that you didn't know before. So
yeah, so the beauty in the pivot point is that it does leave you in a place where you have no choice. I know that's something that's heavy because most people really resent that place, right? Oh, like, now I'm backed up against the wall.
Right.
Yes. You know why you're backed up against the wall? Because you refused to make a series of important decisions 2, 3, 6 months ago that would have prevented you from being backed up against the wall now.
Oops.
So now you're backed up against the wall and you have to decide, pivot or perish, right? And sometimes being backed up against the wall is the best thing that could happen to you because you're going to do it at that point in time.
Right.
Especially for my friends who are engaged in avoidance or procrastination. You knew you were going to get to this point at some time. You knew it. Now you're here. What are you going to do?
That's it. I love it. And if some of you are out here looking for your pivot points and you don't know where to start, right? Please go to edgyentrepreneurs.com. We do, like as Coach mentioned, we are doing executive consulting. Okay, we're here to help. You need community. You need people that will help kick you in the direction you need to go. And as we close out this season, I wanted to throw a couple personal thank yous out there. All right. So the one to you for being an amazing co-host. I'm glad we have been able to do this in this first season. It's been a lot of fun. And 2, to Brand Crumbs. So for those of you who are in Central Florida or the Orlando area who are really looking to do something cool with your brand, do a podcast, definitely check out Vic at Brand Crumbs. That's crumbs as in breadcrumbs. So Brand Crumbs. So definitely check them out. So great place to be, great service, great production value, all the things. So definitely check them out. And if you are looking to be a sponsor for these new live events we're going to launch, go to the website. I've mentioned multiple times. Go to the website, check it out.
Click on events.
Yep, click on events.
And then look at our sponsorship information and packages. And we have sponsorship packages appropriate for small businesses of various sizes. We have speaker packages available, and we have a corporate sponsor package.
Yes, we do. So if you're a small business in the area and you want to get your brand out there and get in front of people that would actually buy your stuff or take your service into account, definitely come check it out because we do fill a room up with some really good people.
Yeah, I mean, we cater to entrepreneurs and executives, so if you do too, please consider sponsoring one of our events. And we can get you in front of your target audience. And
thanks to all of you for listening this season and your comments, the pictures you send us, the tags on Instagram. Like, those are amazing. Thank you guys for posting that stuff up and saying all those positive things. We appreciate it. And for those of you who have dropped us some, hey, this would help you things, we appreciate those as well. So keep on going with that. So as we close out the season, what else you got, Coach? We good?
No, I just want to give some love as well. Everybody that's been so supportive for us over the last 13 months now that we've been doing events, about 8 or 9 months that we've been podcasting, I want to say about 6 months, right, that we've been really curating a community within Facebook and all of the evolution of that. It's been thanks to people who care about us, right, and about us as people. Right. And so that's really important to us, that so many of you have shown us so much love. Coach Tribby, love and appreciate you so much. Thank you. You're an awesome podcast co-host and business partner. And thank you so much for being who you are.
Thank you. We love you guys, and we look forward to bringing you some more exciting self-mastery, business mastery tools in season 2. Take care, everyone. Happy holidays.
See you then.